Our next case is most certainly unique. The mystery in this story isn't exactly the case itself, but rather the incredible way in which it was solved. On the night of February 21st, 1977, a fire engulfing a Chicago apartment on North Pine Grove Avenue revealed a sad truth. The beloved resident, Teresita Bassa, who was a meek and quiet respiratory therapist, had met a very unpleasant end, leaving behind a grim scene, leading to a trail of unanswered questions. Firefighters fought the blaze, and soon detectives were on the scene. It was clear that this had been an act of arson, and much worse. Teresita's unclothed body was found underneath her burnt mattress, with a large knife embedded in her chest. Despite the detectives' initial thoughts, the post-mortem investigation revealed she had not been the victim of SA. Investigators grappled with a chilling void. No clear motive, no smoking gun, just the charred remnants of a life extinguished. At the scene of the crime, there was one small shred of potential evidence that caught the investigating officer's eye. A simple memo that read, "Get theatre tickets for AS." Unfortunately, the investigation produced no actionable leads, even after interviewing Teresita's boyfriend, her family, friends and neighbours, leaving the detectives at an impasse. And despite their hunch that the person known as AS was involved in the crime, they were unable to find out who they were and what connection they had to Teresita. 5 months after her untimely demise, a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected and highly unusual source: Teresita's co-worker, Remy Chow. Driven by haunting visions and dreams where Teresita's spirit seemed to reach out, imploring her co-worker to go to the police, Remy, along with her husband Joe, felt compelled to seek justice. Getting in touch with Detective Stachula, they recalled their recent experiences in detail. It all started one night after Remy had finished a long shift at the hospital. She decided to take a brief nap in one of the lounges, and no sooner had she closed her eyes, a chill ran through her, and she felt what she described as a ghostly presence. Suddenly, an apparition of Teresita was standing before her, staring right at her. Remy was understandably terrified, not knowing what to do, and so she began to pray. This experience could obviously be written off as nothing more than a bad dream, but the story doesn't end here. A couple of weeks later, Remy was at home one evening with her husband, when she became very tired all of a sudden and decided to go and lay down. While Remy was asleep, she started sleep-talking to her husband in a way that really freaked him out. In Joe's terrified account, he said his wife's own voice morphed into someone else's and began pleading for help. When he asked who she was, she said, "Teresita Bassa." She claimed her killer was still at large, and with chilling clarity, she uttered the name, Alan Showery, a patient care assistant at the same hospital where Teresita had worked before she passed on. The voice implored him to go to the police and give them this information. Upon waking up, his wife had no memory of what had happened, and understandably, Joe was initially reluctant to follow up on the creepy message and contact the police. Wouldn't you have been? Unfortunately for Joe, Teresita's spirit was not going to give up easily. The second time she seemed to possess his wife, Remy, she questioned him. Why? Why did you not go to the police as I asked? Trying to reason with the voice, he explained that they had no evidence, and there was nothing they or the police could do. Teresita's voice told Joe that on the night of her death, her killer, Alan Showery, had stolen a ring and a jade pendant from her apartment and gifted them to his girlfriend. These were very specific and unique pieces of jewellery, which had been purchased decades ago in France by Teresita's father as a gift for her mother. After hearing the couple's incredible tale of the message from beyond the grave, to his credit, the detective still did his due diligence and followed up on the information he was given, no matter how crazy and far-fetched it seemed. After many years working as a detective, he could always tell when people were being sincere, and the couple truly believed the story they were telling him. One detail in the story certainly would have been the highlight for Detective Stachula. The name Alan Showery fit the initials AS, those found in the memo at Teresita's apartment. The detective subsequently ran a background check on the man's name, and not only did he exist, but he also lived near Teresita at the time of her death, and he worked at the same hospital she had. Further investigation led to the detective questioning some of Teresita's co-workers, who revealed that Alan Showery had made arrangements to visit Teresita that evening back in February to try and fix some kind of electrical fault with her television. Now the investigator had something more concrete to work with, information that put Showery in the vicinity of Teresita's home around the time that the heinous crime was committed. The next step in the investigation was to bring Showery in for questioning. Upon being interviewed, the suspect did not deny going to visit Teresita that evening and said he had indeed tried to fix the TV, but he didn't have the necessary tools for the job, and so he left. Detective Stachula wasn't buying this story, and so he later went and spoke to the suspect's girlfriend while Showery was still in custody. The detective asked if her boyfriend had given her any gifts or jewellery in the last few months, and she confirmed Showery had given her a ring and a pendant as a late Christmas present. Presumably with the understanding that he believed it was stolen property, the girlfriend agreed to accompany the detective and allow Teresita's family to view the items. The jewellery was subsequently identified as belonging to the deceased. Confronted with this breakthrough, Showery's facade collapsed and he admitted his guilt, confessing he was indeed responsible for the death of Teresita Bassa that night. Showery explained that after he left her place, he decided that he was going to return and rob her. Going back to the apartment, she once again let him back in, and as soon as her back was turned, he attacked her and then finished her off. He explained that the reason he removed her clothes was to make it look like the attack had other unpleasant motives. He then pulled the mattress off her bed, threw it over her, and set light to it, in a bid to destroy the evidence. The trial took place and was branded by many as the Voice from Beyond the Grave trial. The prosecution presented 13 witnesses over 4 days to a jury of 12 men and women. Although the initial tip-off had come from paranormal sources, there was no way that the prosecution could use this in a court of law, so this element was left out of the trial entirely. The fact is that all of the evidence independently gathered after the initial tip-off pointed to Showery's guilt, the prosecution declared. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until, on the 5th day of the trial, things took an unexpected turn. Despite the fact that Showery had previously admitted his guilt to the detective, the accused now claimed that he was not guilty and that he'd only confessed to the crime after police had fed him information and threatened to arrest him and his pregnant girlfriend on murder charges. The trial ended with a deadlocked jury since they couldn't agree on the verdict, and the court declared the case a mistrial. In a surprising turn of events, 1 month later, while waiting for the retrial, Alan Showery reversed his decision and chose to plead guilty. The outcome was a mere 14-year prison sentence. As one ponders the leniency of this punishment, you can't help but question whether justice has truly been served. The family must surely have felt it an insult to the memory of Teresita, a kind soul whose life was tragically cut short. Unbelievably, Showery only spent a little over 4 years incarcerated before being freed on parole, leaving us to reflect on the shortcomings of the legal system. Has true justice been achieved? We don't think so. Remy and Joe Chow had no more visitations from Teresita or any other paranormal experiences after the trial. Remy hated the media glare that surrounded their time in the spotlight, and they went on to live a quiet life after the media frenzy had died down. Many years later, together with their friend Carol Mercado, Remy and Joe wrote a book called A Voice from the Grave, which was published in 1994, recounting the whole story from their perspective. While some people want to believe Showery's sudden change of plea from not guilty to guilty was because he was haunted and tormented by Teresita, this is probably not the case. After reading and researching about this strange mystery, Showery's change of heart is much more likely to be explained as a logical decision. He was probably taking a more lenient plea bargain rather than risking a retrial with a whole new jury and an uncertain outcome. What isn't quite as easy to explain is the very detailed and specific information that the initial tip-off provided, the kind of information that only Teresita herself could have given. For many people, this case is clear evidence for the existence of ghosts, spirits, and the afterlife. What do you think?